Hello there guys, and welcome to this painting video. So today I'm going to go through the steps for painting this lovely King Tiger 2 tank, which is going to be part of my bolt action collection for my German armies. I'm going to be going for a winter scheme. I've got a fairly straightforward, quick and easy way I think of doing a kind of a winter camouflage scheme for vehicles, which I'll take you through. And I want to try and emulate this scheme here. So this is the instruction manual. So you can see this nice sort of whitewashed tank here, which has been kind of grimy and faded. So I'm going to go for something like this. As I say, I think I've got a way of doing this where it's not too difficult to replicate. I'm not I'm not an amazing painter. I'm okay. I'm decent tabletop. I think I can get a decent result from how I do things. So as I say, I've finished my assembly and I've gone for the Porsche turret. There were two turret options, the Porsche turret and the Henschel turret. I just quite like the elongated version for this Tiger for what I'm doing. So yeah, so first steps are a black undercoat. So I'm going to go and do that outside. So it's just a rattle can spray. I don't use airbrushes, so I'm just going to give this a good prime in black. I'll come back after that. Right, so that's the black primer undercoat done. So that just gives it a nice base and just smooths it all out. The next step is the start of this winter camouflage scheme. There's actually not a huge amount to this part, but basically what I'm going to do next is using this rattle can spray. I'm going to spray the model grey Seer. I'm not going to spray the whole model though. I will be spraying kind of the top down. So basically that's what's on this stick. So effectively I'll be spraying at an angle like this from the top and just on the sides there. I'm not going to try and get too far down inside here. I want this to stay black just to give me some natural shadows. So that's the next step. So it will look quite light grey. This grey Seer is quite a light grey colour. It's almost like an off-white almost when it's dried. And again for the turret I'll be spraying from the top like that and then just on the sides. It will look quite grey when it's finished, but they'll still have like underneath side here, inside the tracks underneath there will still be black or dark. Just give you some natural highlights from the get-go. Okay, so I'm going to go outside and do that now and then show you how that looks. Right, so that's the grey Seer applied. And as you can see, I'm still kept some of the shadowing in here on the wheels and under there, under the turret here. Just by not going, basically when I'm spraying kind of this angle or on top. And also having two undercoats does give it a nice base to work from in terms of the paints, but also getting a few natural kind of shades and highlights around the back of the tank there and around the front here as well, which just helps to give it a little bit of that effect. So the next step is going to be for a dry brush using white. I use this white, but any white will do, and it's quite a heavy dry brush, yeah, so it's not, sometimes you can be quite light with it. This is quite a heavy, almost an overbrush technique, which I'll show you and come back and do that. Right, so let's get this dry brush and going away. So it's quite a heavy dry brush, so I am taking quite a bit of paint off, but I am going to be doing quite a rough dry brush here, see like that. So it's not sometimes you can be quite gentle with it and kind of just catch the edges. I am still going for a lot of the edges here, but I am going to try and again, it's just starting to highlight up the tank in that white scheme. Just do a little bit more for you so you can see I'm not taking everything off the brush. Sometimes you can take a little bit more off, but you can already see that's starting to pick up all the raised edges, really starting to highlight some of those things on the tank all around. Obviously it's a long way to go yet, but actually I'm not being too delicate about it, but that's the kind of effect I'm going for. So let me finish the whole tank off and then I'll come back. Right, so that's the dry brushing complete, and as you can see, starting to come together a bit now. And what I like about this is it's a bit patchy, so and that's what I'm going for. I don't want it to be uniform, and just giving those natural shades and highlights around the tank, because the next step is the crucial one, because this will give it this kind of washed look. Because effectively, I'm doing this in a reverse order. The tank would have been a different colour, and then the Germans would have whitewashed the tank for its winter camouflage. So I've kind of done the reverse bit. So this is kind of the whitewash done, and now I'm going to apply a very watered down colour all over the tank to try and get it back to something like that colour here. As you can see, you've got the white showing through, but you've also got this kind of like khaki yellow, which would have been the tank. If you look at some of the tank colours here, obviously this one hasn't got that decorative kind of stripes, but clearly the tank underneath would have been more of a yellowy khaki colour, and on the wheels as well. I did dry brush the wheels as well. So I'm trying to get it back towards this now with this next step. So I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do. Right, so the colour I'm going to be using is this Vallejo Khaki. So just give that a quick shake. And what I'm going to do is make my own kind of almost a wash with this now. So I'm going to put this on my palette here, just a decent blob. And then basically I'm going to heavily water this down. Just get I've got an older brush as well because this is more of a wash. So I'm really going to water this down now. I don't want it to be too thick at all. So you can see I'm heavily watering this down on the palette there, because I really want this to it's almost a stain kind of wash. So it's quite heavily washed down there, and then effectively I'm just going to apply that liberally over the tank. And as you can see, it's going to run into all the surfaces around the tank. And basically just make sure when you're doing it, you don't let it pull, you just keep dragging it around the tank, and that's about what I'm looking for. I don't want it any darker than that really. If it is, you can just use a bit of water on your brush and just drag it around. You don't need much of this at all. As you can see, that's pretty much done there now already. So I'm just going to go around the whole tank now and just do that, and I'll come back. Right, that's dried out now. So as you can see, that's given it a really nice khaki hue around, as it's kind of like a heavy stain really. And as you can see, you can just see how that undercoating really does highlight areas, so it gives you a real patchy look, which is what you want really. And it's quite a simple thing to do. It didn't take long to do at all. You can really see it here where it's kind of like in and out of shades, and on here. And that didn't take much. That was just a black spray, a bit of a grey spray at the top, bit of dry brushing, and then a very light wash across the whole tank. Right, so there's one more step to get this winter scheme completed in the first step. I've got to do quite a bit of weathering on this and all the tracks, etc. But in terms of the winter scheme itself, there's one more step to do. I'm going to bring back the white. And basically what I'll be using is a very old brush. There's different ways you could do this. You could do this with a sponge, but I quite like doing it this way. It's an old brush. It's a little bit worn out. White paint, and basically putting it on the end, rubbing it, taking some off it, and then basically it's like a stippling effect. So I'm just going to be doing this around the tank. So let me show you how that's done. Okay, so again, I'm getting my old brush, just put a bit of paint on the end, and then I'm just kind of, almost like you would for dry brushing, just taking much, but I'm trying to leave some on the end. And then basically I'm just going to be going around the tank and just basically, you can use your finger as well a little bit, it's probably a bit too heavy there. And just going around the tank and just basically doing this, dotting it around. And as you can see, it starts to basically look like there's the white paint, the white washes where it's chipped, etc. Now this does take a little bit of time. You've almost got to find the right consistency for your brush as well for this. And so if it is a bit heavy, it's fine because you can just literally use your finger to wipe it off. So let me do that. Like I say, you can do that with a sponge as well, but you can see there's a nice little effect on there, doesn't it? So let me go and do it around the whole tank and we'll come back. Right, so that's all the stippling done. So as you can see, I think it gives a really nice effect to the whole model. Looks like it's really had the quite worn, and as you can see, it didn't take much to do. I mean, there's different ways you can do these techniques, guys. There's different ways you can build this up. This is what I do because it's quite straightforward. It's not too hard to do, and it's quite an effective way of getting your models to look kind of a little bit battered, a bit worn. So the next step, I've got quite a bit to do yet in terms of weathering, etc. So the next step I'm going to do the tank tracks here. Now you can do these in different colours. I haven't got a Vallejo colour I like for this one, so I'm going to be using a Citadel colour. So I'm just going to be coating these in Eshin grey, and I'm also going to do this part of the gun here, this housing. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, so that's the grey done. As you can see, the tank's really starting to come together now, and that really starts to make the winter scheme stand out. So next step, I'm just going to apply a wash of Agrax Earthshade to the tracks, the wheels, and also to this cowling here. Just give it a bit of grime on it. So just do that and come back. Right, then that's the Agrax Earthshade has been applied. Also, I've also took the time while it was drying to put the decals on. I need to do that as well. As that does start to dirty up the wheels. It's still drying a little bit still. And for the tracks, and then I've just done that side as well. It's still drying at the moment. So next steps, I'm going to go back to Agrax Earthshade again. I'm just going to start to put some of the bit of shading into these recesses here. So I'll just come back and show you that. Right, so let's just start doing this then. So I'm just using a small brush, and I'm just going to get some of that Agrax Earthshade. I'm just literally going to start to fill in some of the these recesses like so, and this will just give a little bit more depth to the model. And again, just in here, as you can see, it starts to really help to define some of those vents and parts of the engine cover. So there's all these bits here, around here. I'll also do some of this here. So you've got these little recesses between the armour plates. So again, I'll just be putting some just between there, just to give that a little bit more definition on the model like that. So I'm going to go around the whole model and the turret, and I'll come back when all that's finished. Right, so that's all that shade's now dry. As you can see, it has a nice little bit of depth to a lot of those, the engine covers and some of the hatched areas as well. Just gives it a little bit of depth for the model. I've also took time just to do the machine guns. So I've done it in just black and a brown stock, and black there on the machine gun there. So we're getting there now. Got another big step to go now. I'm going to do some weathering. I want to get some rusty look, a bit of a rust on here. I think this really does help to weather the model down. I use Rhinox hide for this, which is a brown paint from Citadel, and I need a little bit of a sponge. So let me come back and go through that. Okay, so just get my sponge, I'm going to dip it into the pot, and then I'm basically going to just take a lot of the excess off this. Now, you're better off trying to take as much off as possible rather than putting too much on, because you can always add. It's always difficult to take away. So I'm taking most of that off there, and then basically I'm just going to go around some of the edges where you'd get scuffs and where the rust would occur. So just going to go along the bottom here as well. And as you can see, this Rhinox hide does a really nice job of just looking like a little bit of rust. I always kind of do the edges, a bit along the sides there on the skirts, around the cowling there, and you can start to see what that does. Gives it a really nice rust effect. Very simple technique. So less is more with these sort of things. So I'm just going to go around the whole model now. I'm going to probably focus mainly on the edges, some on the top here, some on the front here, around where the tracks are, etc., and at the back. So I'll do that, and I'll come back and show you the results. Right, so there we go. So that's that rusting rust effect put on, and as you can see, I've also done it on the wheels as well. And as you can see, really does make a big difference, I think, to the whole look. Looks really nice and worn in, this tank now does. And that winter camouflage is still there, poking through. But yeah, so that's pretty much all of that done now. So now I've got a few more details to do now, so a few things. I need to do all the equipment that's on the side. So I'm going to start with these cables that run around here. There's one on both sides. So I'm just going to use this. I use this. It's a metallics colour. You can use any kind of metallics. I like this. It's quite dark. It's called black metal. So it's quite a dark metallics. So I'm just going to put that on. So I'll come back when I finish that. Right. So that's all the equipment finished. I have actually also put a wash of Agrax Earthshade over the top of those as well, and just did the handle there in a brown. Just a brown colour, same one I did for the gun there. I think it's flat brown from Vallejo. Yeah, it's flat brown. So I did that one there, and then this side as well. So that's just that metallic colour with a little bit of wash on it. So the next step is, these are all kind of finishing touches now really. So what I want to do, I want to just work on these decals a bit, because they stand out a little bit, and as you can see, they're a little bit shiny. So I just do a little technique with some white, and what I'm going to do is just get another sponge. I'm just going to be dabbing a little bit of white around these, just to basically fade them down a little bit. So I'll just come back and show you that. Right, so just going to firstly, so just take the turret off. So just going to get this sponge, and I'm just going to dab it into the white, and literally I'm going to take literally most of it off. So there's hardly any on it at all. Like that, and then literally I'm just going to be dabbing that on to that. And what it does, it just chips it a little bit, and it just gives it a little bit of a slightly worn feel into the, see the difference? There's one here as well. It's a little bit of touch and feel on this one. You just kind of get used to that one as well. And then we've got this sign here. As you can see, you can you don't need much at all. It's just kind of blending it into the surroundings, really. Just makes it a little bit more. Should be right, that one. That's fine as well. And then I'm also going to, we've got this little bit on the side here. So I'm just going to bring back in the grey that I used. I'm just going to use the other side of that sponge. By the way, these are all just out of packing stuff that you get when you buy miniatures and stuff. So always worth keeping, because for these little jobs. And again, I'm just going to go over the top of this lightly, just so I can blend it in a little bit with the grey beneath. Doesn't matter if you it's a bit heavy, you can just use your finger and smooth it out a little bit. Same for this side. It just blends it in a little bit around the tank. There we go. So it just doesn't stand out as much, a little bit chipped. Right, so that's those finished. Okay, so I've got a couple of other steps, so let's come back for the next one. Right, so one last bit of sponge work to do. So we've got two things here. We've got the barrel of the gun, and we've also got the exhausts here. So again, I'm just getting a bit of a sponge. I've got a bit of black on my palette, so again, I'm just doing the same thing here. I'm just basically taking the black off these. Again, you could just paint this on, but it's fine, it's easier. And what I'm doing then is literally just dabbing it on to the ends of the exhaust pipes, where they'd be a bit smoky from the fumes, like that. And then similarly for the gun barrel, it's going to have some soot marks from the various shells coming out. And these can be liberally dabbed on. Took too much off there, so I need a bit more. Remember, less is more on these, and you can just see it just helps to give the barrel a bit of a smoky look from the top, and come down a little bit as well. I think that's probably about all I want to do. Maybe just a tad bit more on the back here. As you can see, there's hardly anything on the brush. It doesn't really come off. Right, so I think that is done. Yeah, that looks good to me. Right then, so I've got one more thing to do before we start putting some other things on the tank to finish off. So come back in a second. Right, so this is the final bit of painting as such. So I just want to give the tracks and around here a slight dry brush of white, very lightly, just because obviously it's a winter tank, so it's going to be a little bit frosty on the tracks, etc. So it's just literally a little, take us again quite a bit off the brush here. Tracks are quite nice because obviously got a lot of detail on them. So I'm just literally very lightly going over the top of these, and again just on the tracks themselves as well, just like that. There is some effects I'm going to put on these as well, some snow effect, but this just gives it a bit of a frosty kind of feel, just like that. If you look at the difference between the two sides. It's very light. I mean, it's probably enough on this brush to do this side as well. Yeah, there's enough on there because it's nice and there's lots of detail on here. It picks up the brushing quite nice. So I'm not being too delicate about this because there's not much on my brush. This side as well. And that's that done. So it just gives it that slightly frosty look. And then I'm just going to have to put a little bit, tiny bit, on the around this gun housing as well. Literally just a slight, very light brush around here, because again this would be slightly frosty, and then a little bit on the gun as well, like that. It just gives the gun a little bit of a frosty look as well. It's been outside. And also got the gun down here as well, so just very light. Right then, so let me just put all that back together and show you the tank just with one step to go. Right, so there you go. So we're almost done. I think it's looking really smart. By the way, I did also just give these a slight dry brush in white as well. Again, just over the top a little bit off camera, but I think the tank's looking. Well, I'm really happy with that. As you can see, it hasn't taken much to do really. I mean, it's quite a few steps, but they're quite simple steps really. Bit of dry brushing, bit of sponging, a bit of a wash, a couple of sprays, and I think you've got a nice, decent, good standard tabletop standard tank to go with. So there's one last step. It is a snow tank. This is supposed to be for this will be for my Battle of the Bulge collection. So I'll be putting this stuff on. This is some Vallejo weathering effects. Now you don't need to do that. You could leave, that would work pretty well, I think, as it is. But if I just show you another tank I've got here, this is an American Wolverine tank, and as you can see, I tend to put the snow on the tracks around it as if it's been out in the snow. So I like to just do that to add a bit of extra detail. So very simply, this stuff comes straight out of the pot. Just give it a good shake. I'll show you a little bit, then I'll do it off camera, and you'll see it's basically like it's almost like a basing effect, but obviously white. And literally, it's a very old brush, a bit of an old knackered brush, and basically I'll just be putting it through around the wheels and onto around like that. So let me go and do that on the whole tank. I'll just do a little bit more to show what I'm doing. This is all very random, guys. It's just to represent it's just been through some snow, obviously, so it's going to be pretty random. So I'm just going to do that across the whole tank, and then I'll come back and show you the finished one. Right, so there it is. There's the finished model. So I'm pretty happy how it's turned out. Hopefully you'll see I mean, there are quite a few steps to get into this standard, but also they're not particularly difficult. I don't think they're. I mean, I say I'm not the best painter, but I think I've just taken my time. I've got a few techniques I've learned over the years in terms of just dry brushing, chipping, using a sponge, getting those sprays done, and you just combine the whole thing. I think it works out pretty well. I mean, I'm really looking forward to getting this beast onto the tabletop. So let me see how this compares to what I was trying to get to, which is the professional standard. These are the pros who do this for a living. So that was my attempt. I think it's pretty good, actually. I'm quite pleased how that's turned out. I think it's fairly representative of the colour scheme I was trying to get to. So yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that, actually. So yeah, well, hopefully you've enjoyed that, and usual stuff, guys. If you any comments or likes are much appreciated. This will be appearing on a battle report coming soon. I am focusing on the Battle of the Bulge. I'm doing the campaign book that Warlord Games released for 2nd edition, even though 3rd edition is out now at the time of this video. This is December 2024. I'm still playing through the scenarios, so this will be appearing in a battle report on the channel very soon. So hopefully, guys, that was okay. Keep yourselves well, and I'll catch you all very soon.